Morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Blind Press YouTube channel and coffee stream, episode 434. And this is going to be kind of a new thing for the next month, where on Mondays, Functional and I are going to be getting together and talking about the week of campaigning that has happened. But since there hasn't
She
been
wants
a week,
to torture me, people.
since there hasn't been a week of campaigning yet, we're going to talk about the official launching of the campaign or of the election, which happened yesterday.
Oh boy, howdy.
And oh my god, there's a lot to between Trudeau's actual announcement and some of the poll and survey data that has come out. This is a terrifying election. This is some of the polling information, like the Abacus poll that CPAC was going over yesterday before Trudeau's announcement. Now, we do have to take this survey with a bit of a grain of salt, because it was only a 3,000 per person survey. But still, there was a lot of people saying that, they don't want an election right now, and they think that the Liberal government has led them through the pandemic in a good way, and not a very large percentage of people say that they want a shakeup. And then there's a lot of people that are going, well, I don't really want an election, but if I have to, it would be nice to choose the government. And it's like, well, no shit, you're supposed to choose the government. That's what it's for. It's like,
I've wanted one for quite a while now.
Yeah.
As you know, I think we both have, because of the corruption and downright ineptitude of the current government.
Yes.
But we don't have any alternatives.
No.
The one alternative we have doesn't have any seats in the House of Commons.
Yeah. And the one alternative that we could have, the leader is too soft.
Who, O'Toole?
Yeah.
I still don't like the Conservative Party.
You know what? I don't really like them either, but I like them better than I like Trudeau's party right now. And But
I just don't see them doing anything differently.
No,
they're still going to be, oh, we've got to talk about climate change, and oh, we've got to talk about COOF, and oh, we've got to talk about Build Back Better. Like, some of the comments coming out of the leaders in response to Trudeau and Trudeau's words himself, it's like you got Jagmeet who's talking, oh, we've got to make the millionaires and the billionaires pay their fair share. Where have I heard that before? You fucking communist. And then Trudeau's like, oh, we've got to build back better. And where am I? What was I talking about?
You know what's really interesting about that Build Back Better thing? Do you remember who used that slogan? It was very recent.
It's on the tip of my tongue. I'm sorry, I'm getting old here.
He happens to be the commander-in-chief of our neighbor to the south. That was that was Biden's fucking thing.
Yeah.
Build Back Better. That was the Democrat Party's thing. That was...
it's since evolved into a globalist dog whistle.
Yeah.
It really has, because it's not only now popped up here, but it's popped up in other countries like Turkey, France, Germany, the UK, and it's like, Build Back Better? No, motherfuckers. We were on course. We had good societies, good countries that were self-sustaining. until you assholes came in and started fucking everything up.
Yep.
You started pushing corporations over to China and India and Taiwan instead of keeping manufacturing here and in South America, and like same thing across the pond. They pushed their manufacturing out into Southeast Asia, and now with Brexit, not pre Brexit, what was it called again? The EU.
Yeah.
With Britain being in the EU, they had a little bit more flexibility. Excuse me. Now that they're out of the EU, they can control their economic destiny a little bit more. And again, I mean, like it's kind of like comparing apples and oranges, and I don't want to get too much on a European tangent, but I mean, it's also very much more compact.
Yeah.
Here we have the room to be what Canada has the ultimate ability to be 110% self-sustaining.
Absolutely.
Obviously, we still want to do trade and whatever and blah, 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 which is fine. But the power generation, the manufacturing, why has it been so inept? And these are the types of things that we should be talking about when we come to an election, but we don't, because we have to be focused on climate change and build back better.
And you know what's interesting is that Trudeau is pitting the vaccinated versus the unvaccinated against each other in this election.
Oh, of course he is.
And I was listening to his announcement yesterday on CPAC, and he was saying really, really scary things like, we have the democratic systems in place to make, because he kept bringing in talking about resettling 20,000 Afghani people, as well as talk about bringing up the election announcement.
Remember, they changed immigration to caps to goals.
Yeah. And he was also saying, we have the democratic systems in place to withstand or to stand making this election choice. And it was almost like he was substituting democratic systems and democratic, substituting those phrases, but really meaning the Liberal Party. That's what it felt like he was saying. It didn't feel like he was saying that the institution of what we have is strong enough to withstand, strong enough to, take this election and these choices. It really felt like he was saying, my party and me in charge of my party is strong enough to take this.
Yeah, but I mean, it's empty.
And it was really scary. There were a couple of things that he said that really, really got my alarm bells ringing. One of them was, this election will not only shape what happens in the months to come, but in the decades to come. That scared me.
Sure. Well, he wants to destroy the Canadian economy, and he wants all of Canada to be a service-side economy to foreign interests that pay his.
I've never my mom was always very savvy with what was going on. I remember watching debates with her when I was little, right? And federal debates and provincial debate. I have always been exposed to politics.
Sure.
And I do not remember a prime minister or a prospective leader of Canada saying something like, this election will affect what happens in decades to come.
Excuse me.
That's really weird to me.
I- yes, but I mean it's political talking points. I mean they just this is it's kind of par for the course. It didn't scare me as much as basically what like our vaccination rate across Canada is like something like 50%. People are out and about and having fun and enjoying life again, and the government, especially Trudeau's cabinet, is still in full. Oh my God, COVID! Full. Oh my God, the fourth wave is here. Is that why the hospitals are relatively empty?
Yeah.
Is that why people are out and about and
Everyone, I keep seeing,
nobody's dropping dead?
and I keep seeing videos from your main media sources on YouTube, like your CTVs and stuff like that. Is the fourth wave going to ruin fall plans? It's like, well, if the government has any say, probably yes. But the other freaky thing that Trudeau said, almost in the same sentence as this section will affect what happens in decades to come. He then says, "I need you alongside me in this fight." And I'm like,
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
what does that mean, dude?
Again,
what?
he is like bitch boy number one for the global homos.
Yeah.
He is basically trying to lead this charge because I don't believe that Joe Biden is and his administration and the Democrats are the establishment Democrats are really on board with this. They just want to make as much money, like the Nancy Pelosi's of the Democratic Party. They don't give a shit about a globalist agenda. They just want money. They just want to keep making money off the backs of the country, which sure, fine, that's bad, but I'd rather that than selling us out to places like China and the global narrative of we need to be a one world government, which no, not when there's so many fundamental differences between us, Canada, and Pakistan and Germany and Zimbabwe. No, you can't have that. We are two very different, multiple different cultures, governments, societies, populaces.
I would even posit that we are different from people from the states. Like, and they're right next
in many
door
ways,
to us.
yeah.
They're right next door to us, and we are vastly different.
And you have the Trudeaus, the Jagmeets, the oh God, who's the black Jew who's took over for May?
Oh,
the
and
Green
Mimi
Party.
Paul, I think her name.
Oh
is
yeah,
Nami
Mimi,
Paul,
whatever.
Or whatever.
She's crazy. But they all want to basically be America.
And what's really scary right now,
very different.
Well, what's really interesting right now is that Trudeau and Jagmeet seem to be the what it looks like from their campaign itineraries. It looks like they're going to be chasing each other, and focusing on chasing those votes.
Yeah.
And almost seemingly ignoring the Conservatives. Basically focusing on trying to steal the undecided, mostly the undecided people that usually identify as a liberal voter. And we also see like the problem is that O'Toole is also starting in a weaker position than Andrew Scheer did. So
nobody likes O'Toole, not even his own party.
No, and that's the problem. And we are very, like, the scary thing is that if you look at like if you listen to because CPAC did some segments about where they were just going to your everyman on the street, and the amount of people that are like, no, I don't think we need a change right now. I think right now is a bad time. Or the like the people that feel that way, and the people that don't want Trudeau again, but really don't want a conservative government. The scary thought is that there might be enough people who are uninformed enough and who just absorb the mass media information
The bought and paid for CBC and city TVs of the world, yeah.
that believe that Trudeau truly did guide us through the pandemic properly.
Yeah, and these are the same idiots who are vaccinated wearing 3 masks and...
The scary thing is that there might be enough of these people to give him back his majority and put the NDP in an official opposition status.
The NDP in opposition I don't see it. I honestly don't. I think that there's, yes, enough disaffected Liberal voters, but there will either be continuing on with the trend of our plummeting voting numbers and people just being so disaffected that they just don't vote. And that's been a common theme for those who don't know. Canadian voting turnout numbers are even worse than American, Trump notwithstanding. We need that sort of populist character to reinvigor the voting process, because we don't have it here anymore. It's dying, and that's a problem. When swaths of your country refuse to get out and vote, do their civic duty, then I don't find that those elections are legitimate anymore.
Well,
that means that the people who are there to represent us aren't representing us.
The Asia Research Directorate asks, why isn't Pierre leading the Conservative Party? What might happen is if O'Toole cannot win this, right?
They have recall for leadership.
They will recall for leadership, and I bet you any money that if Pierre Poilievre doesn't step forward himself,
people will put him up there.
He will be nominated.
And that's the thing. I know, Mr. Poilievre, I know it's something you dread, you hate, you do not want to do. Fuck what you want, because Canada needs you. Canada needs a strong leader who isn't going to kowtow to China or special interests or whatever.
Yeah.
And who will represent Canadians and who cares about this country and cares about the people in this country. Because as it stands right now, not a single one of those goddamn leaders going to be at those podiums will give a rat's ass about fucking Canada or Canadians or people. They won't.
No, you're right. Yeah, voting turnout in Canada is usually in the mid-40s, says the Asia Researcher. No, it's been a lot. It's usually a lot higher.
Yeah.
It's usually in like the 70s or 80s, but I think in the last election it was like 60-something%.
The last one, I think it was even lower than that.
It was low. It was pretty damn low. It was scary.
61.4%.
61.4
was the third lowest in Canadian history.
Yeah.
And just for some perspective, according to Elections Canada, let's get up to 2000, 61.2. 2004, 60. January 2006, 64.7. October 2008, 58%. 2011, 61. 2015, 68.
That was
2019, 67.
67.
These are federal elections.
Yeah.
Purely federal. So you can see the provincial level has a little bit, probably between 5 to 10% higher turnout.
Yeah.
But you can see that that's kind of pathetic, especially considering that previous to that we were in the low to mid 70s, which that's three quarters of a country. That's good enough for me. That's good enough for even somebody as angry and hot blooded as me. That's good enough. Because I'm of the mind that if you don't want to vote, it's your civic right to not have to vote.
Yeah.
Especially when you're not really given many options.
Well, and that's the problem, is that right now there are not that many. There are almost no options. Yeah. If you want to vote for, if you want to go for like a PPC vote, you're almost throwing your vote away, because even if they get seats, they're not. You can't go from 0 seats to holding official, opposition status. It's impossible.
Yeah.
And your other options are crap. Right? Like, and then we have the problem of how many people are just going to vote party lines because that's what they've always done, versus actually going out and looking at what your MP is about. What is your MP? What does your MP? What are they going to go to Ottawa and push for your riding, right? Not many people do that. People just go, I usually vote Liberal. Who's my Liberal MP?
Yep.
This person? Okay. I know who I'm voting for now. And that's not, and that's your right to vote that way, but that's not
irresponsible, but it's still your right, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not an informed way to vote. Like, there were a couple of times I ended up voting for an NDP MP because she had the best platform.
Oh yeah, for sure.
She was like, for the region, she had the the stuff that made the most sense, right? I wouldn't but this is why we need to come up with something that's not quite first past the post and not quite electoral college. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, good hybridization that also takes into consideration modern innovation and ways of doing it that isn't fucking voter mail-in ballots, but can at least use technology better to make elections easier. Like these, what is it, 35 days?
36, yeah.
36 days.
Shortest campaign in Canadian history.
Which, the bare minimum within the law of Canada.
Yep.
First of all, I think that needs to at least be doubled. But secondly, there should be a government-funded, fully funded, online platform where these campaigners, you want to appease the fucking COVID Karens? Well, look, we can talk directly to and hear directly from the horses' mouths online.
Yeah.
How about that? Then we don't have anybody spreading the deadly coof. That's fine. What about voting? Hey, registration. We can register online. I mean, I think they already have that for provincial. I'm not quite sure if it's federal yet.
Yeah,
but if they don't, we could include that. My point is that we can just be using technology better instead of being afraid that we need to use I'm having a bit of a brain fart. The paper ballots, but the first past the post system with the paper ballots and blah blah blah. We don't need first past the post anymore. We can get everybody's vote in a matter of 24 hours. Calculated, tabulated, collected, verified. My biggest worry honestly, and this might be a little tinfoil hatty, but my biggest worry is that the same thing is going to happen up here that happened down south.
Yeah.
And it'll apparently be the most popular prime minister in all of Canadian history kind of thing. And everybody's kind of looking at each other going, wait, who voted for this chucklehead again?
Exactly.
Aside from his base, you know?
Pink Hollow has a good point. He says if they just use the same system they use for the census, there wouldn't be an issue. The census system is pretty secure. Yeah.
Well, I mean, down south, up here, it doesn't. The system itself doesn't matter. It's chain of custody.
Yes.
Whether it be a physical custody or a digital custody, there needs to be a very, very, very stringent chain of custody.
Absolutely.
And right now, there really isn't, aside from the actual, again, the physical polling stations. We do have very secure polling stations. People take that shit very seriously. Like we said last Friday, BP.
Yeah.
People who work those polling stations, they're happy, they're friendly, but don't dick around because they will end you. They will drop you in a heartbeat. They will kick you out. They will call the cops on your ass, and the cops will not care what you have to say about it.
No.
You do not mess around at a polling station in Canada.
No. We take our voting rights very seriously, and when people, like, you will notice a very big divide between the people that vote and care about voting and the people that are like, nah, fuck voting. Right?
Yeah.
If you say that, like, if you're one of those people that are like, nah, fuck voting, and you say that around a majority, not all, but a majority of Canadians, we get pissed.
We're
like, what the fuck do you mean you don't vote?
Our the people in politics might be a joke, but our system is very treasured.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we have a very secure, for the most part, system that is now under attack by, surprise, surprise, the Liberal Party. But I hope people realize this. It might be wishful thinking on my part, but we got to remember the last three big things that he campaigned on, he reneged on all of them but the pot.
Yep.
And even then, and even as BP and I were recreational users, and I used medicinally, and I was very happy about this, but I would trade that back in a second. If it meant that we could go back and have our freedoms and hold accountable the lies of voter reform and immigration reform, which I guess in his mind he probably did a little bit of immigration reform with his we're turning taps into targets and blah 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 blah. Well, you know what? Right now the glass is kind of full, and we need to let some of that water evaporate before we start dumping more water into the cup.
Yeah.
So I've always used the analogy of a cup of water for immigration. Yes, that cup can hold quite a bit of water, but you need to let some of the water evaporate to amalgamate into the rest of Canada. Yeah. Instead of having, 20, 25, 30% of your population be first-generation immigrants. That's not how a melting pot works. You can tell the guy's never worked in a kitchen before, because when you're melting cheese, you don't keep throwing blocks of cheese in with unmelted cheese to make it melt faster. No, because then all you get is a bunch of burnt cheese on the bottom and a bunch of uncooked cheese from the middle to the top.
Yep.
The great melting pot. Yeah. And you're overfilling it so that people can't melt. And it shows. It shows with the upticks in crime in urban areas. It shows in the upticks in unemployment. Remember when we took a whole bunch of those Syrian refugees in? There's still a good chunk of them. Last I checked, it was about the 1/4 mark who are still on benefits.
Yep.
Who have made, from all, I can't speak with any assuredness, but from reports, where I take those with a grain of salt because they're probably partisan, but from reports that say they've made almost no headway into looking for jobs because they really don't need them. They can keep collecting their checks and sending their kids to free school and free healthcare and free. Well, you know what, buddy? It's not free. We paid for that. You didn't pay for that. You just showed up one day and said, "Gimme, gimme, gimme."
Well, and it's very like I'm just really concerned about how short this whole election campaign is, because first of all, Trudeau's been with all of the COVID briefings, right? He's been Mr. out in front of the public, talking trying to talk a good game. And the other thing that he did yesterday was very interesting. It was, how when you're dealing with a narcissist and they have one of those rare moments where they almost admit where they fuck up, right? And then they still manage to make it somebody else's fault. But you should still, feel sorry for them and oh, look, I'm admitting that I was wrong. See? I'm a good person. That was very telling yesterday, that he was, nobody was prepared for this pandemic, and we tried our best, and we did do some, we did do some things that, we would have liked to have done better in hindsight, and, but we feel, we've led you, we've been there for you, we've had your backs, we now have the highest vaccination rate in the Western world. It was straight out of the gaslighting playbook.
Yeah.
Yes, I was wrong that I screamed at you and hit you in the face. But you know what? Look at all the good things that I've done for you.
It's getting real. It's an abusive partner. You're totally right. You are totally right. And the sad part is people are going to buy it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah. Yeah.
There are people out there that think that the pandemic was well handled.
Mm-hmm.
Say what you want about any of the other surrounding topics, it was not well handled.
No.
And you know what? Yeah, we weren't prepared. You know why? Because people like you outsource all of our fucking drug manufacturing to places like fucking India and China. You support regimes like the Democratic Partnership down south, who supplied massive funding for gain-of-function research in Wuhan, China, for this virus. And I just wonder, we've done our own research of that stuff, but we do it here under very, very stringent protocols. Notice how we've never had a lab leak like that ever, and China has had, I think they're up to 14 now. Well, the only difference between this one and the others were it wasn't a global spread, but we've become so acclimatized to having everything hyper connected and trading and tourism and travel that it's only a matter of time before something that is actually serious and not just the new cold being an actual global high death toll pandemic.
Well, and the problem...
And we're going to put our trust into China to make sure that doesn't happen? I don't fucking think so.
And the problem and the other problem is that they were too busy virtue signal. Like we weren't prepared for the pandemic. Well, maybe if you had fucking, instead of virtue signaling about how not racist you were, maybe you should have closed the fucking borders for the first month.
Yeah, because remember, for the first, I think it was the first 2.5, 3 months, there was nothing. We weren't doing anything.
Except decrying what a horrible racist Trump was.
And then, and then 8 months later, that's when they started, oh, well, you just came in from China. Well, we're going to have to force you into a hotel. Oh, you just went to, Sora's mother. Oh, you just came back from Romania? Well, you're going to have to sequester in a hotel on your own dime and blah, blah, blah. It's like, wait, what? When did Romania become a hotbed? First of all. Second of all, if you're forcing me to do something, you are going to pay for it. Oh, wait. You don't pay for anything. You just use our money to pay for whatever the fuck you want. Like, right. I forgot that that's how this works.
My uncle just got married. I think it was a year ago. Okay. Mm-hmm. He married his wife is from Liberty, New York. They've had to live apart because he works in Toronto. So he has to live in Toronto. And because she's not a Canadian citizen, right? So until I think it was August 9th, they reopened the border to fully vaccinated U.S. citizens, something like that. For the last year, they haven't been able to see each other because he's had to, be here in Toronto doing his job, mm-hmm. and she couldn't come up. Mm-hmm. So it was, but if they had, not been virtue signaling and trying to call Trump a racist and just closed the border for, maybe a month or two and just said, okay, no international travel. You guys, we got to keep this under control. I'm not saying it wouldn't have spread, because there still would have been some spread within countries, mm-hmm. right? But there wouldn't have been a huge problem. It could have been contained. But everybody was too busy virtue signaling and running around in Chinatowns within their own country, which makes no sense because that's not where the virus came from. And well,
they're the ones who turned it into a racial thing, not right? An ethnic, not a geographic thing.
Yeah, they made it a racial thing. They were like, look at me hugging this Chinese person, China. And I'm not sick. Like, what?
Yeah, not. It didn't come from Chinese people. It came from China.
From China, the
China,
location,
the country.
It didn't
from a totalitarian communist government. Yeah, I barely want to call them communists at this point, but you know what I mean.
So for Trudeau to be like, we weren't prepared for this pandemic. It's like, okay, nobody asked you to be clairvoyant, but could you have at least had some common sense? And that's what people should be looking at, right? Nobody expects people to know when the next pandemic is going to happen and plan accordingly, right?
Right.
What they do expect is for people to take logical measures and not call each other racist when they do that. Sure,
but I mean, you've got to follow the money. Look at where mm-hmm. all this money is coming from into the coffers of the Liberal Party. It's from China. Mm-hmm. The swaths of land. Look at the Huawei thing. Mm. Look at the wrongful imprisonment of Michael and Michael.
Yep.
2 Canadian citizens that Trudeau has done dick all to help. He'll pay lip service. He'll say, "Oh, we're gonna talk to Xi, and we're gonna get it done." And I'm an idiot, and doesn't do any of it.
No, he just sits there and flaps his gums, and if I were either of the two Michaels or their family and I heard any of what he said, I would be livid.
I would be suing Trudeau himself civilly. And
And
I would also be taking, I would also be finding a good civil rights or Canadian constitutional lawyer, and I would be suing the government over violation of Canadian constitutional rights. There are vaccine passport checkpoints in between provinces, and I will beat this drum until the drum skin is broken and shattered. That is against our Constitution. You cannot, the government cannot interfere with legal residents or citizens moving within Canada, into Canada, or out of Canada. And now I'm willing to make the concession that yes, in a time of high transmissible disease, that you can bring them into Canada, but then have them quarantine just to be sure they're not bringing in things like Ebola, like polio, like
yeah.
the big diseases that we know of that are fairly transmissible that can get into the population quite easily.
Yeah.
Then sure, but you're not. Again, that's tricky because you're not technically preventing them from coming into Canada. You're just taking some what most sane people would see as reasonable precautions. For what we know about COOF, those aren't reasonable precautions.
No.
What does it matter if I'm going from Ontario to Quebec?
Right. It shouldn't matter. It's not like you're coming from like if you were coming from an international place, I would understand.
Sure.
Because you might not just be bringing COVID with you.
Yeah.
You might be bringing something endemic to that country that is not endemic to this country.
Yeah, it was one thing I was really scared about with all the African and Caribbean people coming in to the United States under visitation passports, who were then walking across the Montreal border into Canada. Like, we don't know what these people are bringing with them. And no, it's not based on their race. It's based on where they come from in the world that isn't as advanced as we are. And we have to be careful of these things.
Well, and it's not just their advancement. It's just that there are just different viruses in different parts of the world.
Sure. It's almost like these indigenous folks that we constantly want to talk about and baby and maybe that they were wiped out by some foreign diseases that, at the time we didn't really know all that much about it. But now that we do, we can point to them and go, yeah, they were killed by things like influenza.
Yeah.
Different strains of influenza that their bodies never experienced before. Measles. Shingles, things that, we as European settlers had multiple generations of our bodies, our genetic makeup, identifying and being able to survive.
Yeah.
And now they want to completely ignore that ever happened. No, it was all just racist whitey who came over and killed them all. Oh boy. Like those who are forget the past are doomed to repeat it. Yeah, we're on par to repeat all these mistakes.
We are.
All of them.
And it's scary. It is scary. And it's just very worrying that there are so many people that are just not aware of how badly our current government has screwed up. And we need a change, but the scary thing, the even scarier thing is that there's not any better. Like, there's no.
I tell you though, I know what you're about to say, and yes, but I'd rather, quote unquote, waste my vote and vote for what I believe in
Yeah.
and deal with Trudeau for another 4 years than vote for someone I view as just being more of the same problems
Sure.
or Eric O'Toole. I know people are like, you got to vote politically. It's like, sorry, that hasn't gotten us anywhere to date. Sometimes, yes, but when they're so when PC and liberals are so close to being the same party, there is no point.
Yeah.
Sometimes you've got to look at the big picture. And this is just personal. This is just how I view it. I'm not saying anybody else should view it this way. But I'd rather try to start building something than just doing more of the same.
Mm.
It's not working. It really isn't working. I'm probably going to vote PPC, but it all depends on who's going to pop up in my riding, because the last time I really liked the woman in my riding who was PC.
Right.
But I ended up voting for the PPC person because they just overall shared my values more. And what I see is the problem. Like, they were outright saying, yes, immigration into Toronto needs to be stopped.
Yeah.
Completely. Because
absolutely.
cost of living is way out of control. And it's not entirely because of immigration, but it is a huge chunk. It is a huge chunk because we're being sold out to China and Chinese interests, where people are buying condos and basically sitting on them. The whole reason why there was a huge dip in rental rates because of COVID wasn't because people weren't allowed to go out and look at apartments or whatever. It was because of foreign investors going,
yeah.
Oh, well, I'm going to stop buying because we don't know what the future will hold for this. And classes are put on hold, so we can't rent them out to Chinese students to continue their educations there. So it was a lot of unknowns.
Yeah. I have been hearing that there are bidding wars for rental properties.
Yeah, and I mean, they also want to say how prices have dropped dramatically. Yeah, from the insane prices that were there before.
Yeah.
That the unit that I was looking at 2 years ago is now 5% less than it was at its pre-COVID numbers, but that 5% is 80% more than what I'm paying for an apartment that I've been in for only 6 years.
Yeah.
5 years. 5 years. Sorry, I've only been here. No, it is 6 years. Sorry, I'm brains a jumble, guys. I barely finished my first cup of coffee.
Well, and I would say also that Trudeau is trying to pit people vaccinated against unvaccinated to deflect from issues like this, like housing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how the hell those Chinese scientists got into that lab and got away with those two viruses. Or, like, why the hell his party managed to commit 3 separate ethics violations in 6 years. Or why the hell...
And quashed any and all investigations into them.
Yeah, and
funny how that happens.
Exactly. Or how the hell he could say that he's committed to helping any of the indigenous groups when they still don't have clean water, they still don't have, basic stuff for their reservations. You canceled a pipeline that 80% of the bands along that pipeline wanted. You you people showed up to protest your at one of your rallies, and you thanked them for their donations to the party. And your father was in power during the 60s scoop and during when residential schools were still going on, and we're now up to 5,200 kids in fucking unmarked graves, and people still think that he's doing a good job.
Yeah.
I'm my brain is I don't understand.
Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying, even though you and I have a little bit of a different view on the residential school system and what happened for the moment, because again, we're still waiting for what exactly happened with these graves. But I understand, and I am on board with your sentiments that yes, ultimately it is the failure of the current government to deal with these issues.
Yeah,
because it's he's a I wouldn't say he's a master, but he's all about that deflect.
Yeah, and he's just now is the time for you to have your say in how we lead you through and out of this crisis. And
The
it's
only
like,
crisis is the crisis of government.
like this is either the most brilliant stroke in his playbook to try and keep himself in power, and this is the other problem in Canada, is that there are no term limits.
Yeah, I'm not
Honestly,
entirely
I
convinced
think,
that term limits are so bad, because if I had someone like a Polyev in power that
yeah,
actually, again, this is all speculation, but who could be a good leader, I would
yeah,
want them there for quite a while. But I understand the backing of, well, this is not to protect the good leaders, this is to protect against bad leadership, and I get it. I do. um, I just I think the problem or the solutions are simpler than that, in that if they don't have certain numbers for turnout for an election, the election becomes null and they have to start over.
yeah,
Yes, that could be costly, but you know what? If the certain number, whatever it would be, better men than myself would determine that kind of a number, like whether it be 65 or 70 or 80 or whatever, determine some sort of number, and people would have to be inspired to go to the ballot box, because
yes,
that is, at the end of the day, that is a candidate's job. Before they even reach office, they need to inspire their constituents to go to the polls.
yeah. They almost need to be like, to make their constituents go, I don't want an election, but gee, I can't wait to vote for this guy.
Yeah, and that's been ever since I was a kid, ever since my 18th birthday, when I was like, yes, I get to vote now. That has been my personal view on voting. Great, I can't wait to go to the polls and flex my democratic rights
Oh yeah, man. Like
in the process.
I turned 18, and I think I can't remember if it was a provincial or federal election, either that year or the year after. And I was stoked. I was like, "Yes, I get to vote like right now." I was so happy because it's just, you get to exercise that right.
I don't know if it's because I've just become old and jaded, or just my experience with the system and my better knowledge of the system.
Mhm.
But I'm not as enthused about voting anymore. You know what? It's probably a little bit of both, but it's also a big chunk of it being that the candidates do not inspire me like they once did.
Yeah.
And I'm sick of voting against a candidate. I want a candidate to vote for.
Yes.
And that, again, is one of the biggest issues that we both identified as being endemic to the problem with Canadian political system. We're constantly voting against people. That's not what a system is for.
Yeah, I know there's a lot more strategic voting than there should be. There's a lot more I don't want this federal lead like I don't want this leader in charge, so I need to vote strategically instead of conscientiously, which is a
That's one
problem.
of the reasons why when people say you have to do away with parties, and I'm kind of like, I kind of empathize. I kind of understand where you're going with this. Without the parties, you are forced to vote without strategy. You cannot vote strategically. That would leave the door open to a lot of backroom deals and really, shady politicking. And so that's why I'm against it. But I can kind of empathize and go, maybe we got something here.
Yeah.
That's probably not the best idea, but maybe we've got something here. Because, again, the big two in Canada, they're basically the same party. They basically want to waste $1 billion on combating climate change. You know what? You might as well just start funding battling stupid, because that's another war you're never going to win. Or they want to,
exactly.
They want to, combat misinformation or this or that, like things that you just cannot fight. And it's clear to me that these are just ways for them to take our money. Take most hardworking people's money. That's simply all it is.
Yeah.
Because obviously I'm on this.
And what I'm interested to see is in this 36-day campaign, are they going to even, are they going to do in-person campaigning? Are they going to do online campaigning? Are they going to do both? And when it comes to debates, are they going to do a virtual debate, or are they
CBC posited those questions, and they were very concerned because there are communities in Canada that have below 25% vaccination rates.
Yeah.
Are we going to allow the politicians to campaign there? And I'm like, bitch, did you just say allow? This is right? CBC. This is the state-run media propaganda arm of the Liberal Party. So obviously, that's their big concern is people aren't going to be vaccinated. Oh my god!
And what scares me is, are they going to use COVID as a reason why they can't have a debate?
Almost guaranteed at this
point. Which is the best way, and it's always been a very good way for Canadians to take a look at the heads of the party to see what that party stands for.
Yep. I don't think we'll have. I mean, we will, but it won't be what we're used to. I think we will have the in-person debate, but it'll be a lot more akin to what happened down south, where it's an empty auditorium with people, the podium's like 20 feet apart. And, it'll be a lot more of the same. Nobody's going to actually ask any tough questions. They'll all be fed by plants in the online audience, like they do with political town halls today.
Yeah.
When, they have the media personalities calling in on the phone. It's like, why are we... Okay, if we're going to be doing this, why are we even listening to fucking journalists?
Right.
Journalists call in. Why aren't the people calling in and having questions fielded by... Well, I know exactly why we don't, because they'd be asking tough questions. that politicians couldn't weasel their way out of.
Yeah, like, I'm put in mind of that. Do you remember, did you ever watch that 70s show?
Of course. Dumbass.
When freaking was it Ford or Carter that came to Point Place and Red was supposed to ask him a question, and
I think it was Jimmy Carter.
it was, and he was given some stupid fluff question, right? And he didn't want to ask it because he was pissed off at Jimmy Carter. He wanted to know, like, what the hell he was thinking, right? And, like, this is the problem. Like, this is what I'm seeing is these plants, these, quote, journalists calling in and asking fluff questions that, nobody cares about, right? And the minute, an everyman, somehow gets by and, asks a potent question, or, maybe it's...
The media goes in full damage control mode. Remember all those flubs with J Bides?
Yep.
Down south.
Or the... it may not even be an everyman. It may be, a plucky, a plucky freelancer.
Sure.
Somebody
who's an actual journalist.
An actual journalist. They'll ask a real question and they'll just get railroaded.
Yeah, and then later on their YouTube channels, your CBCs, your city TVs, whatever, they will impugn and attack that person's character.
Yep.
And go in full damage control mode. It's really blatant.
It is, and the sad thing is that because the mainstream media is starting to get on and have such a footing on YouTube, your everyman, your most of your common full-time 9-to-5er is only watching those 3 or 4 minute CBC clips on YouTube.
Yes, but to be fair, look at the ratios.
That's true.
There are,
yeah, that is true.
Maybe a couple of dozen thumbs ups and
thousands
of downvotes
from
from the CBC, City TV, CTV. It is amazing what the online community.
The comments are off.
Oh well, yeah. CBC has now been under their quote unquote pilot program to disable all social media comments on their stuff. Gee, I wonder why.
Oh, thank you, Costin. He just put in chat. 2 debates are already scheduled for September 8th and 9th. I don't know which is French, which is English. Well, for sure.
We do away with the French shit already.
Right. I will for sure be covering the English debate. Fuck the French debate. I'm not watching that.
Let's do a live stream.
For sure.
Let's do it on Twitch because it's safer.
Yeah.
Because if we're reposting even CPAC, some dickbag somewhere with Cheeto dust on his balls is gonna be like, I don't like this. I've got to report it, whether or not they're from YouTube's or not. We might, it might get a little dicey, but Twitch at least allows you to repost, play that stuff with commentary. I mean, we're no Hassan Pikers. We can't go make nuggies for 20 minutes while you just let the news play and not get touched by the bots. But at least it'll be safer.
Pincalo says, okay, so upon an initial drive-through of the main Kitchener-Waterloo area, I'm seeing mostly Green Party signs. Oh.
They're out early, yeah. I know that they...
KW
say what you want about Green Party. They are still very gung-ho active in the process. So as soon as that announcement came out, boom, they were on the streets asking to put up signs.
And Asia Research Director, it says KW is a far left city. It's yes and no. It is far. It is pretty lefty because of the 2 universities and the college.
Yeah.
There is a big influence of that, but there are definitely
Mostly the
pockets.
permanent residents there.
Yeah, there are definitely pockets of KW that are conservative, and as you go out more towards Guelph, like where the agricultural, like where the U of Guelph is, with like the farmer, like the more you go out that way, you tend to get a bit more conservative. But yeah, there is a lot of hipster bullshit around here. It kind of sucks.
It's so funny because I'm about as liberal as you can get
Yeah.
without being, a regressive, those kinds of people. I believe in very Lockean principles, liberal principles,
Mm.
and I and again, I see this with my peers who are the same mindset. We see it with online personalities to just people we know on the street who, again, very liberal minded people who are
Yeah.
just looking at liberal parties, democratic parties, and going, "What the fuck? No, this is not what I want. This is not. This is so illiberal. It actually makes me sick to my stomach."
Oh yeah.
I was dreading, not because of you, but or the street or the people in chat or whatever. It's because this stuff makes my stomach churn. I was dreading having the stream today because before we started, I told you I'm sick of this shit.
Yeah.
I'm sick of the lies. I'm sick of us getting nowhere through our political system. It's infuriating.
I've had a pattern after every election result that we've had for the past while, whether it be provincial or federal. There's a clip from early Family Guy where Lois runs for mayor.
Yep.
And there's a scene where she's going after the undecided voters. And at first she's trying to like actually tell them what her plans are. And it's not working. Like nobody's like and Adam West is doing, what Trudeau does. Right? Just bullshitting, not answering questions, just, being a bullshit artist, and it's, winning voters over. And then Brian goes, Lois, undecided voters are some of the dumbest voters you can have. So Lois just starts going, 9/11 was bad. I need to be, and she the whole, it was just talking points.
Just empty talking points.
And I've every the day after our results, I post that clip because it feels like that's what most of our voters are right now.
Yeah, just Western politics as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah, just those, they have no information. They're just going off of, the dumb fucking talking points that make no sense.
Anyone with any sort of even cursory understanding of what's been going on, yeah.
Yeah,
none of it makes any sense.
It just you every time you see these results, you lose more and more faith in the general public's actual understanding of what's going on in our country. And it's like, what happened? Like, we used to be some of the most like as a constituency, as a voting public, Canada used to be one of the most involved, informed voting publics. And I don't know what the fuck happened.
The buying of media.
Yeah.
It's all pay for play now. It is my opinion from what I've gleaned from, reading about history and everything. It's the media, because they are now part and parcel in the back pocket of these politicians and vice versa, because it makes them money. The media has realized that nothing gets them more money than those outrage clicks.
Yep.
Because yes, even though CBC's ratio is way the fuck off, like ridiculously so, they're still making bank off of their YouTube channel because eyeballs are still watching. People are still tuning in. It also is the fact that YouTube is pushing that content.
And the other problem is that the mainstream media has latched on to the fact that 9 out of 10 people that talk about conspiracy theories are insane. So when somebody puts up a valid, this is fucked up, right? The media goes, oh, they're just another conspiracy theorist. You know how crazy those people are.
Yep.
And the most of the general public will go, well, yeah, they are pretty fucking crazy. Because, like I said, 9 out of 10 conspiracy theorists are crazy.
Yeah, it's like calling anybody who's even the slightest bit skeptical of the current situation anti-vaxxers.
Right.
I'm not anti-vax. I have all my vaccinations. Right. I don't want to take experimental medication because I have no need to.
Yeah.
It's not a safety measure for my personal life.
Yeah.
That's what they do. They otherize and they dismantle somebody's talking points by grouping them in with the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
And I'm very wary when people do that, especially content creators online on this platform.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I no disrespect here to anybody I'm going to mention, but somebody like Monkey or like Scribe, I get a little hot under the collar when they otherize people like that, and then in the same breath will say, "Oh, well, you're maligning all conservatives because of blah or this or that," and it's like, but you just did the same thing.
Yeah,
you just are. Oh, all Democrats, all left-leaning people are the same. You just said that, but now you're taking issue when AOC says, "Well, conservatives are dumb." It's like, but we gotta stop playing. Anybody with any brains, any integrity has to stop playing these games and stop seeing it as left and right.
Yes.
This is totalitarianism versus freedom. This is personal freedom, the individualism versus collectivism. And I'm gonna throw it back to what Sargon's been going on about, because he's somebody that I look toward for reasonable discourse on the internet, whether you like him or hate him. He tries to be fair. It is all about individualism versus collectivism.
Yes.
And it's not on a personal level. I'm not saying that me as the individual, ultimate big L libertarian get to do what the fuck I want when I want. No, it's your rights come first and then the rights of the collective, because the collective needs to exist. We still need to live in a country. We still need to respect our neighbors' life and rights,
Absolutely.
But those rights do not get to supersede the basic human rights we have of, life and autonomy and blah, 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 blah.
No, I don't know. This is a very tough election.
Yes.
And it's also it's very frustrating that Trudeau is treating this, because this election is actually a very important election.
Essentially, yeah.
This election is going to decide a lot of things, and it's going to, if Trudeau wins, it's going to basically show him that he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
Oh, for sure.
And that's not a good thing.
No.
We don't need that.
That's terrible, actually, because
we do not need that right now.
We don't need a monarchy. We don't need an aristocracy here in Canada.
No.
Which, again, it's something that's been endemic of the entire Western world.
Yeah.
The entire Western hemisphere, the democratic hemisphere of the world. And people need to fight against it. And I'm still toying with this, but yeah, if that means that I have to vote for Eric the Tool to prevent that, then maybe I will have to do that. But again, I'm just spouting stream of consciousness ideas right now. But there's still that part of me that's going, no, idiot. You have to vote with your conscience. You have to vote by your principles.
Mm-hmm.
So it's tough. It really is tough, and it is really important because we cannot allow somebody who's that much of a totalitarian, a globalist totalitarian, to garner that much power.
No.
No, O'Toole won't be that much better, Costin, but at the end of the day, with how poorly Trudeau and the Liberals have conducted themselves, from Chrystia Freeland and Trudeau down to the local representatives, it's who do not hold their leadership to task, to their promises. They are just as culpable, and it needs to be stopped. Now, if O'Toole gets into power and a lot more of the same happens, then yes, I will beat that drum as well and say, okay, now we have to vote them out. Again, calling back to what I said earlier about we're getting to the point where that's our only options, to vote against people who have fucked up, as opposed to voting for people who inspire us to be confident in our system and our country. Because ultimately that will degrade confidence in the country as a whole more than anything.
Yes, exactly.
More than anything.
So on that note, guys, this is our initial thoughts on the launching of the shortest election campaign in
Apologies
our
to you
history.
and the rest of chat for being a little bit ranty tonight. I woke up, I was already
fine.
cranky, but we'll do some better coverage, actual coverage and introspection when we actually get to the statements.
Yeah. And and tonight, please join me over on Twitch for some Mortal Kombat. Hopefully, I will not piss off the gaming gods. I cannot. I got to master rank on Friday night, and then I just had to play one more match.
Yep, Elwyn was giving me she was watching. She was giving me the live updates as I was doing my thing, and I was just like, no.
Oh, it was so frustrating. So hopefully I'll get that back tonight. So come along and watch. And of course, this week will be Wednesdays with Skep. And on Friday I will be traveling, so there will be a no coffee stream on Friday.
Nice. And then of course coming back next Monday with whatever updates happen throughout the week, we will come back and we will discuss those a little bit more. And obviously, since things are actually taking form, I'm going to be paying a little bit more attention than just cursory, whatever happens kind of attitude.
So thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope you have a great day, and we will see you later. Bye, guys.
Take off, eh? Posers.